had this epiphany, and it was about manhood, right? And what does that mean to be a man, and coming to terms with the responsibilities that men have to be intentional about their actions and the betterment of themselves on a daily basis. So as men, we have a responsibility to lead our families, the community, our organizations, but none of this is possible until we first learn how to lead ourselves. I mean, simple things like going to the gym, picking up books, you know what I'm saying, reading books to try to get better, learning about finances, all of this stuff is about intentionality. And right now, there's a huge case for men falling short when it comes to developing ourselves into the best versions of ourselves. Like, don't be wrong, some of we're working hard, right? We're going to work, spending all of this time in labor, but we're not laboring in the improvement of ourselves. So, like, even with our organizations, what I always say is like the levels that your organization rises to and the depths to which they fall are incumbent on the individuals that are in there and in the makeup of those individuals. So our communities, our neighborhoods are as good as the individuals that make them up. And until we as men really start to step in our position as being leaders in the community and adding some directives that make sense, start directing and guiding ourselves and determining what our principles, what our values are. You talk to a lot of men, they don't even know what's the values that they live by. If you ask them the top 10, they may stutter about those values. And those need to be things that we're sure about. And we need to have proper definitions regarding all of those different values. It's not impossible for our community to get about the depths of it, but I think there has to be a huge responsibility and a huge lens put on the role that men play in that. And we got to have coming to the carpet, coming to Jesus moment to really say that we are not giving the best that we can give individually. And the fact that there's a lack of accountability between us, we have to hold each other more accountable and really push each other to become the best versions of ourselves. Because right now, I can assure you that we're not giving our best. Building on the video earlier, James Baldwin has a phenomenal quote that says, "The subtle and deadly change of heart that might occur in you will be involved with the realization that a civilization is not destroyed by wicked people. It is not necessary that people be wicked, but only that they be spineless." Our communities are being destroyed because we have spineless individuals who aren't stepping up, standing up, and calling out activities and actions that we should not be allowing other people to participate in, especially other young people and especially our peers, right? It takes advocacy, it takes intentionality, it takes people standing up and speaking out so that we can start to make these communities safer for our women, children, and for the elderly, right? Because there's the African adage that says, young men for war, elders are for counsel. Young men for war and elders are for counsel. So that's why on the front lines of our movements, on the front lines for improvement, on the front lines of holding our schools accountable, on the front lines of teaching our people about who they are, it should be the younger people. And we should be doing that in connection with the older people who have had the experience, because back in the civil rights movement, it was the young people who were out there on the front lines. 1963 in Birmingham, where you see the videos of the dogs being sicked on the people and the fire hoses being turned on people. Those were young kids that were out there. That's what they don't tell you a lot of the time when you see those videos. It was called the Children's Crusade. And so it was people like Martin Luther King, and then older people, which like people like who was his mentor, who was instructing him, Benjamin Mays, who was instructing him and telling him what to do when he was bringing forward bringing forward ideas. They were saying, hey, you should think about doing this, think about doing that, move here, move there. The elders are supposed to counsel us, but it's the young people, and it's specifically the young men, who are supposed to guide, who are supposed to direct us. And that is not happening right now. Currently, 18% of fourth graders in the Black community are reading at or above the levels in which they should be. And when it comes to eighth graders, only 15% are reading at or above the levels that they should be. Why is that? Who's responsible for that? Who has to play an essential role in that? Of course, everyone has a role to play in that. But if we're going to be at the forefront of the household and the vanguards of the household and the vanguard of this community, then guess what? With leadership comes responsibility. The head is heavy who wears the crown. You can't ask for the respect and the leadership in one instance, but then we fall short in other instances and we seem to not measure up. That dichotomy can't exist. And one of the things to those who are so-called educated, W.E.B. Du Bois spoke to the talented 10th, essentially saying that those of us who go off and get educated in these realms of academia are supposed to go back and save the masses from the dumbfounded, what we call the deaf, dumb, and blind of our community. So it's our role. We're not supposed to get our education and vacate the hood, vacate those communities in which they need help, resources, and assistance. We're supposed to go back. We're supposed to infiltrate those neighborhoods, regardless if you go back to your hometown, whether you set up shop in a new area where you know that there needs essential help. We're supposed to go back there and work. And then that's the way that you protect those neighborhoods and you create sustainability. And then you bring an influx of investment, because there's been so much disinvestment right now because there's been a mass exodus of those of us who are supposed to be so-called middle class, upper class, successful individuals. We vacated those areas. And you could talk about safety or the high written crime that's there, or the fact that the schools aren't as good there. Again, whose responsibility is that? You can't keep casting off this responsibility and naming all of these issues and flaws without taking up shop and then occupying those spaces to make these improvements. Our kids reading and not being able to read on a proficient level by the 4th grade, and then 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade still not. What do you think is going to happen to them when they grow up? Everything they need to know is in books. And I want to leave you with this, that small, daily, seemingly insufficient improvement, when done consistently over time, yields staggering results. So if you ask, where do I start at? I haven't even gotten on this. And if you're looking for quick, instant gratification, quick, instant results, that's not how it works. That's not how building money works. That's not how getting to wealth works. That's not how hitting your goals work. That's not how improving your overall health, improving your workouts, all that. It doesn't work by you just getting up there, getting out there, and then putting forward action one day and just having this miraculous change of results that occurred another day. No, it is those small, daily, seemingly insufficient improvements that are when they're done consistently over time, that's when you're going to get the staggering results. So if we want to see our community make improvements, we got to start today. You have to start right now, and then over time, for days, weeks, months. Don't forget that it's a stair step. So in 1 minute, what you do for a consistent time, for consistency over time, will turn into 30 minutes, which will turn into an hour. And that's how we expand and how we morph to get those particular results that we need. So when we look down the line, for those of us who went to college, remember that day you showed up, that freshman day, and then those of us when we graduated 4 years later, it all started with that first day when we showed up. And we learned so much. We gained so much more experience because of the commitment that we put in once we made the resolve to say, I am going to see this through. And so if you look at that growth, right, in order to go through growth, you have to go through some adversity. You have to go through that time period of sitting down and dedicating yourself. We're not doing that. And I'm talking to my fellas out there right now, because we got to understand that it's very much so possible. Matter of fact, our mere existence and furtherance is determined by that. Our communities do not have to be the way that they are. We have to make a plan, and we just can't have people. The first thing we need is your willingness. The second thing we need is you to educate yourselves. And there's a difference between the education that happens in academia and the education that happens in the home. Both are necessary, but the one you get in the home is arguably the most essential and most important to this. So you have to, we have to re-educate ourselves. Some of the narratives that we spit out are narratives that we got from the exterior, and we didn't challenge those thoughts and ask, where did this thought process come from? But we walk around with it. It's at the center of our existence, but some of those ideologies are toxic and they're not the best things for us to do. And we have to have standards. We must have standards. It's all about the actions and activities of the individual that benefits the whole. It can't just be about, this is what I want to do because I want to express my freedoms. But it may be disadvantageous towards the furtherance and prosperity of our community. The decisions can't be made in a vacuum. They have to be made consistently with thinking about what is best for all. What is best for all is best for me.